Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law. Today is another beautiful day, and we will be talking about the off-season gubernatorial election happening in about 3 states of the Federation, which are Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. As we all know, election is the bedrock of democracy. And yesterday we had another off-season election, and it's time to look at INEC, the conduct of this off-season election vis-a-vis, the compliance with the electoral guideline, that have been provided by law. In the studio with me this afternoon, we have 3 legal minds who would help us, make sense of what has been happening and as to whether INEC has complied with various electoral laws governing the conduct of elections in Nigeria. The studio, as you can see, is very, very full today because we have a very, very interesting topic, a sensitive one for that matter. We'll go on a very, very short break now, and when we return, we'll introduce our 3 guests already seated and waiting, to dish out their arrays of knowledge to us. So sit back and enjoy the show. We'll go on a short break and we'll be back very soon.
In Kogi State has since commenced amid heavy security presence, and so far, voters are delighted that the process has been smooth. Other polling units so far visited election materials were said to have arrived before 8 o'clock in the morning, with INEC staff arranging to begin the process. At Ward A, Unit 014, Lokoja local government area, voters were already out at about 8 o'clock, confirming their names and waiting to be accredited for voting. Those who spoke to Galaxy TV News expect that the polls will be credible.
I am a domestic observer. I've led the team Patriotic Visionaries Foundation, a non-governmental organization accredited by INEC to observe this election. So far, so good. I can say the compliance is so encouraging from the part of INEC and from the part of the electorates. I have been the 7th polling unit I have been, and from what I have observed so far is that INEC are on ground on time, because from the other units I have been around 7:30 a.m. they were just arriving there, and here, as you can see, they have already set up their stands, which means the level of participation and arrival is very timely. And from the part of the electorate, you can see them hanging around waiting for accreditation to commence so that they can cast their votes. And for those who want to stay and see how their votes will be counted, we stay. For those who would like to go, we go and carry out their normal businesses. All I expect from this election is for everybody to go out freely and vote candidates of their choices. As you can see, the presence of security, that is from the part of the government. The presence of security on ground is very encouraging. And from the little interactions I've had with some electorates, they are pleased with the level of security as compared to last election, which I have confirmed from them. They were even scared of going out. But from today, you can see everybody moving freely because they have seen that their security is guaranteed. So I encourage them to go out, vote the candidates of their choices. If they wish to stay, let them stay, and I advise they stay and see how their votes are counted. But devoid of violence, Let's give INEC the benefit of doubt. And from what we have seen so far, INEC is good to go.
So I want to commend the police and the military personnel for what they have done so far. But right now we are at the polling unit, and they are working hard to ensure that the election is free. And so far, so full. People are in their high spirit. People want to vote according to their conscience. You see, they are in high spirit. The old, the young, women are all here. But you see, I'm supposed to be on duty. Since I've been voting in this particular unit in the last 30 years, that you see why you see me here. Even I cast my vote, I'm moving out from my official duty. And I believe, at the long run, when the winner emerge, it should be the people that, it should be the person that the people wanted. That is what we're expecting at the end of the day.
At Kwatong Koto Open Space Unit 001, Ward E, where about 750 voters are casting their ballot, the process there was smooth and peaceful. Voters there say they expect their...
Okay, yeah, we are welcome back. You are still watching your favorite show, Democracy and the Rule of Law. Seated on our studio today, we have distinguished lawyers seated among us, as guests this afternoon. Directly on my right is Barrister Obiorome. Barrister Obiorome, welcome you to the show once more.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So, next to him is Dr. Adekunle USAN. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and the last of my list, without the list, is Barrister Deji Olale. Barrister Deji, we welcome you to the show once more.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Okay, so today is, without wasting much of our time, we'll connect to our correspondent in Bayelsa to give us live feed from there. But before he comes online, let us start by Subiora. This is another season of election. It's an off-season election of gubernatorial election from some of these states. So from what's your assessment so far of the conduct of the election from INEC, at least from what you have been hearing? I'm sure you'll be following the process.
Yes. From what I've watched and heard so far, what happens in elections in Nigeria has also repeated itself in this one. In Imo State, for example, the election has been concluded, and the incumbent governor has been declared as the winner of the election with over 500,000 votes, about 540,000 votes, as against the person that got 94,000 and one of 71,000. Now, the issue is that the opposition are kicking that the election was not free and fair.
All right, Barrister, please, can you hold on? We just connected to our correspondent in Bayelsa, Mr. Dele Faso. Mr. Dele, are you there with me? Hello, Mr. Dele, are you there with me? Okay, he can presently... Oops. Yeah, Mr. Dele is there with me. Mr. Dele, can you hear me? Okay, please, can you give us a sense of what is happening in Bayelsa right now? Hello, Mr. Dele? Yes, I said, can you give us, you are live now, can you give us an update of what is happening in Bayelsa right now?
Just about less than an hour, the INEC returning officer, asked everyone to leave for them to
Hello, Mr. Dele?
And before they went on recess. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So, INEC have been on recess to reconvene by 3 p.m. But before they went on recess like that, 3 local government council areas were announced, remaining in 5 out of the 8 local government areas of Bayelsa State. So as you can see, it's empty standards. We're just waiting for 3 p.m.
Yes, okay. Okay, if I can get you clearly, you say about 3 local governments had already been collated.
Okay, yes, that's correct.
Okay, I can barely hear you now. Okay, we'll get back to you. Mr. Dele. Let's take Dr. Joe. Yeah, the off-season election, is ongoing in 3 states of the federation, and of course there are high expectations from Nigerians as to the transparency, and the freeness of this election, since there will be concentration of both human and material resources in the states instead of having the whole bulk of the election conducted in one day. So from what you have been getting, how has this election been, from your own perspective?
Well, my take really on it is based on what I've heard so far, what I've read so far, and what I've watched on television, even from the major actors, that is the gubernatorial candidates. On the average, nobody has come out to say the conduct was not done in the proper manner. Somebody else might say, okay, well, he wants the election in certain places cancelled. It is natural. And I'm not amazed that some people are saying, look, we won't take this result. It is a normal thing with Nigerians. And that is how we have got into off-cycle, off-season elections. Because somebody somewhere felt aggrieved and went to court. That is why we are where we are today. So if you are aggrieved, that's not a sin. You are entitled. So if the opposition says, but what would really matter to me more is that from the general conduct, the regularity is above board. It's above average. Nobody has accused INEC of being partisan. Nobody has come out to say, yes, there were, you can talk about pockets of violence here and there, like people who tried to snatch ballot boxes who were shot. Yes, and I won't call that one violence, basically, because apparently they have to pay for the sin, their crime, and that was what happened. Majorly, I think it's been quite free, fair, and violence-free.
All right, sir, Dr. Barrister Deji Olale, what has been your own observation so far in the conduct of this three off-cycle election?
Well, just like my good friend had said, the learned sake, the election is a little bit of an upscaling from what we used to have in the past, but it's not perfect yet. Because we still have these, some of these delays in some of the people who are to conduct the elections getting to the centers. And there were allegations of disappearance also of the entry forms in some of the states where elections were conducted. In fact, there were allegations that some of those forms were being written on by some people who are highly powered in their state. There are such allegations that most of the polling units, they didn't have access to INEC's papers to enter the result. And I'm sure you also know that it brings us back to the question of the IRF.
Yeah, but you said the election have met above average.
Well, relatively.
You said upscale?
Just an upscale. Better just a little above what we used to have.
Because from what you are saying that there's an allegation of a written result, there's an election of lack of electoral material.
We have always had, just like Leonard Six said, we've always had, almost of these problems had always been in our election. But at least there is not much sporadic violence as we used to have. This widespread use of force and all that. Even though there were lots of soldiers involved, mobilized for this election, and the police. That's also another issue for another day, whether or not.
So in your own opinion, you feel that it has met the minimum requirement so far from what you have heard?
Well, it all depends on the perspective of those who are the participants in the election. Like in some states, for instance.
No, I'm asking your personal opinion on the assessment. My
personal opinion is that it's a little bit better than what we used to have, but it is not what we still expect. All right, INEC is still, like, if you look at if you look at prior to this election, there was no mobilization or enlightenment of voters.
Yeah, but one would have expected that this one should be far, far more better, especially given the fact that it's just 3 states that is being conducted at the same time.
That's why we say that it's a little bit better, not.
So in your own opinion, it has met above average, because above average is passed.
Well, I wouldn't give them above average, maybe a little bit close to average.
Okay, that means they are still within the threshold.
Yes, we are still within the low threshold.
Okay, but some of your seem to be, you have a divergent view from what can we get your own perspective, especially the Electoral Act of 2022 seems to have introduced technological means, to eradicate some of these malpractices. So how has this technological means played a role in this off-season election?
That is
for instance, IRF and BVAS and all of that.
Yes. That's the point I wanted to make before we went on to connect to the people on ground in Bayelsa, the person called earlier. One thing I've noticed in Nigeria and in our elections is that there have always been this arrangement by politicians to see the end before the beginning. And what does that translate to? That in cases like in Bayelsa, one of the candidates that contested the election did not vote. He refused to vote because he believed that going to vote will just amount to wasting his vote and time. Because as far as he's concerned, the result had already been pre-written. There are allegations that even in, apart from Kogi State, that some of the political parties hijacked the process. And with all these things, the question is, what role is IRF, Beavers doing to restore the confidence of Nigerians in the electoral process? Personally, I believe that there's a high cloud of apathy in the electoral process in Nigeria. I met with someone who told me that he will never vote again in his life. That he doesn't want to destroy his voters guide just in case it might be needed in future. Because as far as he's concerned, he doesn't have confidence in the system. In a system where the list of voters on the register will be there, list of accredited voters is there, and then at the end of the day, you can see that the people that voted is either the number on the list. The essence of introduction of technology is to ensure accuracy. That was why we expected more than what we are seeing here, what we are seeing today.
Okay. Thank you. I think the point is well noted because of want of time, because we have a lot of issues to go. Let me go back to the learned sake, on the general conduct, because to your own view, at least INEC has scoring above average.
If I'm going to score INEC, I won't give them less than 85%.
Well, they
have done pretty well. You see, we need to be fair with ourselves. We cannot sit here and assess in totality what happened on ground. Look, for electoral process, you are expected to have the INEC officials, you are expected to have party agents, you are expected to have things done at a particular level. That was one of the reasons why a few of us came out to say, look, in the last presidential election, where people said this did not happen, this happened. I say it's a matter of evidence. Just show. Yeah, you want to get.
Okay, you can continue.
Okay, you see, what we need to do is let us have evidence that some of these things that we are talking about happen. It is easy for somebody to say, I'm not going to vote because he had seen far ahead that he wasn't going to make a headway, he's not going to win an election. And one of the things he wants is already creating an alibi so that people, it will give an impression to the whole world that I did not participate in it. I think basically we must learn how to do things in proper manner in this country. Somebody in Kogi State said he wasn't going to vote. He was asking for cancellation of an election that was yet to hold. How do we do that? Because he knew fully well that he wasn't going anywhere. So I think primarily, if we have, as before I left my home this afternoon,
sorry to cut you out.
No problem.
We are reconnected with our correspondent.
No problem.
Let us take the live feed from there. So, Mr. Dele Fasa, are you with me? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you too. So let us take more update from what is happening live in Bayelsa State. So you were, as you said before, how is the collation going so far? Hello, can you hear me? we'll get back to you. The line is breaking. We'll get back to you. So, Mr. Mr. Deji Olale, yes, we are still on this issue of transparency because you will agree with me that election is one of the bedrock of democracy, and credible election is also part of that process.
Yes.
Yes. So how has this election reinforced the confidence of the Nigerian people on sustenance of our democracy as a whole? Because looking at this election, there seems to be a general apathy. From what I've seen so far, we are seeing low turnout of voters.
Yes.
You know, for Imo State, the result had already been declared,
Yes.
and we saw less than 600,000 people coming out for a state that has up to 2 million registered voters. So what do you have to say about this?
Well, I think the general fallout of the experiences we have had in the past, and we have not been able to address the problem of the 2019 election. Even though INEC is trying to recover its credibility and put in some bit of integrity into the process, all right, into the process, but it's not giving any dividend yet because of voters' apathy. Quite a lot of our people are not interested in voting anymore, and that's
So sorry, Mr. Yes. So sorry, Mr. We've just connected. The line seems to be shaking. We connected with our Bayelsa correspondent, but it seems that the network, because the place where they are collecting is very rowdy, so the noise there is interrupting the network. So, but we can continue.
Okay. So what I was trying to say is,
telling you to connect to.
what I was trying to say.
He's telling you to.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yes, what I was trying to say is that the voters' apathy is becoming a big problem in our election. If you look at that Imo result, the winning by the governor is just by over 500,000, a little over 500,000. And if you hold the entire Imo state with its population, will be having a winning streak by just 500,000. It doesn't.
So sorry, Mr. Deji,
Yes.
we connected back to Mr. Dele. Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, that's why we are having slow network. Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay, once you're live, just call me, then we'll connect back to you. Thank you. Okay, there's a technical glitch at the Bayelsa because of their satellites there, so we're able to have an effective connection.
So as I was saying, you see, there's a need for enlightenment and mobilization of our voters. And the only thing that can ensure that people come out to really vote in any election, is when the people feel that their vote will count. And as long as they have this feeling that the vote will not count and that results will be written and nothing will happen and all that, it leads to trust deficit for the electoral body. And I think INEC should do something much more than what they are doing now. Like I was saying earlier on, if you look at the pre-election period, you will see that not much mobilization or enlightenment of the voters was done.
Yeah.
And all that.
Sorry, we are live now at Bayelsa. Mr. Dele, I hope you can hear me now. Okay. So how has the collation been going so far?
Okay, right now I can tell you that they are on recess to reconvene by 3 p.m. But before they went on recess, they already called out Yenagoa local government, Olokuma local government, as well as Kogi local government, out of the 8 local governments. So coming back 3 p.m. according to the returning officer, Professor Faru, that will convene by 3 p.m. when other local governments arrive. But for now, the situation is just 3 local governments have been announced by INEC here at the Bayelsa headquarters.
Like in Bayelsa.
Okay. Yes. First of all, the state capital of Yenagoa, which has a voting strength of over 200,000. The accredited village was a very poor turnout. According to INEC, the result is when you read it out, they're getting about 54,000. Whereas we're talking about over 200,000 votes expected here. So, and he said a lot were cancelled when he bypassed the beavers. The result was written 0 for them, no voter for them. So that's the situation they have in most places. Anywhere that the beavers is bypassed, then they can give their place in 0 score. So that's the situation.
Okay. Thank you very much for that report. We'll get back to you. We'll come back to you very soon. Let us take a report from our correspondent in Kogi. Okay, before we'll connect to our correspondents in Kogi, because they are also colleagues in right now. You were making a point as to some of the challenges that are still. Okay, so sorry,
yes.
We've connected to our correspondent in Kogi. Let us quickly take in Mr. Nabuchi. You are live on the studio. Oh, you're not able to get live. Okay, we'll get back to you. The network is very, very bad. We'll get back to you when you're able to connect to us live. Okay, we're unable to connect live to our Kogi correspondent because of the network leak. But let us.
Yes, I also want to mention the problem of interference by executive governors or past executive governors in our elections. This question of godfatherism, trying to plant somebody to succeed them, is another major problem that we are having playing out in both.
No, but Mr. Dejido, do we have to worry about people who have preferences?
We have to, because you discover that the overbearing influence of a sitting governor that has the police.
How does that impact INEC and police? These institutions ought to be independent.
But they are not.
And the governors are not the one conducting the election.
There is a lot of deference to governors, who are sitting governors, especially where, there were allegations that in Imo State, the governor was actually controlling almost the entire process.
By implication, are you trying to tell us that INEC is not independent?
We have always had this problem. But
a sitting governor in Osun State lost the election.
That's
he lost his election. So it's not. It doesn't. No, in all fairness, it doesn't really add up.
Let us see.
Yeah,
shouldn't we be worried more? Should we be focusing on the preferences of sitting governors or the independence of this institution? Because ordinary by design, they ought to be independent.
And naturally, if I'm in office, I should be keen about who succeeds me. And I should do whatever I can do legitimately to help him, not to do anything illegitimate. And for as long as the governor has not gone beyond that, I think an INEC has not compromised in any manner. Talking about low turnout of voters, I asked myself this question. In which way or in what way has INEC stopped voters from coming out to vote? We are not aware that they denied anybody access to their voters card or whatever. So I'm coming.
So sorry.
I'm coming. It's a matter of clash of rights.
Yeah, but
it's my choice to vote, and it could be my choice not to vote. There is nothing anybody would do about it. I said this. People keep talking about it. The level of awareness. I tell you that during the last election, some people came all the way from abroad to come and vote in Nigeria. Yes. That is the level of interest that people had, and some people are outside there. Some they are not keen about what you are doing And if you look at the number of people that voted in the same Imo state in the last election, they were not as much as what we have today. So apparently, it's a matter of choice. I don't know. I don't see any way why anybody can force another person to come and vote. And it shouldn't be a basis for us to say the election was properly done or was not properly done. You vote if you want to vote, you vote, you don't want to vote.
Let's get this people, but some people seem to differ your opinion.
In as much as I agree with you in some respects, but look at it this way. The essence of democracy is giving the people the opportunity to choose who will be their leaders. That's the essence of democracy. And then, in a situation where the way INEC has been going about the conduct of election to the point that people don't have any confidence in the system anymore, that has resulted to general apathy. In Imo State, for example, which is a reference point, they have over 2 million registered voters, and less than or about 600 voted, which means less than half voted. And most of them, when you do a kind of questions and so on, some are saying that they will not vote because they don't have confidence in the system. And even now, people that lose the election in Nigeria, some of them may be reluctant to go to court, thinking that they may not get what they want from there. Don't you think that apart from just the main conduct of election, that INEC has a duty, one, to restore confidence of the masses in the system?
In what way?
To restore confidence, to show that when they conduct the election, that it will truly be independent, transparent, and fair. So,
in all fairness with my brother Obiora, it is defeatist for anybody to assume that if he votes, his vote will not count. You voted during the last election, isn't it?
Yes.
You voted during the election. I voted, and as far as I am concerned, look, it is a choice. One of the basic tenets of democracy, the major, is the rule of law. And in observing the rule of law, I have a right. If I have a right, I exercise it. If I choose not to, there's nothing anybody will do. You see, I'm not being sarcastic about this. I'm being fair with myself. If there is enough mobilization, it's basically the political parties, they mobilize, isn't it? The INEC, they did their campaign. That's it. I know.
Mobilization.
What
do you mean by mobilization?
Mobilization. What I'm talking about, you go around, you campaign.
Okay.
You do your sensitization. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Because I know that mobilization.
No, not in the other manner. Not in the other manner. You imagine that during this election, somebody was mobilizing to give money to another set of people came around to steal the money.
You have to quickly clarify that.
So I think in all fairness, we are growing. Okay. The country is growing, democracy is growing. By now, we're supposed to be beyond where we are now. I will keep saying this. I will keep saying this. It's about quality of voters. A lot of people are not, do you know that even some of these things that we call registration, there are people who ordinarily, perhaps, I'm just assuming, if you register in Imo State and you live in Lagos, you might not have enough resources to travel down to Imo State to vote. And if you say people say they are disenchanted, it is subjective. How many people outside there says, I don't want to vote because my vote will not count? I don't know them. I've not seen them. That's the truth. So apparently, as far as I'm concerned, these are matters of choices.
Yeah, we'll go on a very short break so that let us, the studio, have a little bit of cooling down. And then we'll return, we'll continue with this discourse. Please stay with us.
Included, our agents have been stopped from going into Nembe, and so that's a very serious concern. Our party has written an official letter to the chairman of INEC, and INEC has to take drastic actions to ensure that what we call for is a free, fair process where the beavers should be used, just as I have done here today. So let the accreditation be by the beavers in Nembe Basambri. So special attention has to be taken on Nembe Basambri because everything points to the fact that in Nembe Basambri, PDP members are chased out of their community. We had issues in southern Niger where we had a boat that capsized. So there were two major issues yesterday. The Sagbama Ward 6, where some criminals came and eloped with those materials, and INEC is promptly taking action. So I'd like to appreciate INEC on that. Again, for the boat that capsized, they have already alerted us, so we're also aware and they are taking action.
You're welcome back. You are still on the favorite program, Democracy and the Rule of Law. We are taking on issues and fallout, from the off-season elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo State. The Imo State result has already been declared. A collation is still ongoing in Kogi and Bayelsa State. So, Professor Deji,
yes,
in furtherance to what we have been discussing, there was a report, I don't know if you saw it, it was on national television of one of the collation officers in Imo State who was beaten, I don't know whether by political talk or some other persons,
yes,
at the collation center, because he was raising the issue concerning the collation officer had the duty to accept petition from the various
about the conduct
parties about the announcement of the world or local government LGA results. So what does the Electoral Act say? Because there was a kind of confusion as to the true meaning of what the Electoral Act provides when there are contention as to whether what is to be announced as the LGA results, was what actually transpired at the various polling units. I heard when the collation officer was saying that it wasn't his duty to start discussing about what happened. It's the duty of tribunal or the INEC to look at what happened at the election, and the agent insisted and it led to. So I want to get what the law says, concerning that process.
Yes, I think it will depend on the nature of the malfeasance that is happening in the course of the election. There are some comments or input you can make at the polling booth, particularly where the legal process is not being followed. For instance, if there are people are not accredited, people who should be accredited are not allowed to be accredited, or people are not allowed to vote, you can make such complaints to the officer, the presiding officer. But if it has to do with the other general conduct of the election or the anomaly of the election, it's not at that polling unit.
No, is the state collation of at the state.
Okay, at the state collation,
yes.
Now, at the state collation center, that such comments should be taken and addressed. I think that was the problem we had in 2019, this last election.
So does the law provide that the state collation officer can entertain such complaints at that level?
If there are discrepancies in the figures, for instance, the figures that they have and what is being collated,
yes,
of course, those who are officers of a political party can raise eyebrow as to those figures that have been accepted. And if there are votes that are outside the already collated results that are being added, because most of the time you find that they can bring votes from strange places.
So what does the law provide in this regard? Does the law provide that the state collation officer can go
yes,
in there and make an inquest into that process?
They can inform the officers and they should record it. And if these are things that can be corrected at that level, it should be corrected. Unfortunately, we have a situation where most times it will just be ignored, and we saw example of it in the Dino Melaye opposition to the result at the National Collating Center in the case of the last election.
Yeah, but is that an issue of common sense or an issue of the law? Or that the state collation officer can make an inquiry into how the process at the unit level?
Inquiry per se. Complaints can be received at that point and noted. Complaints can be received at the collation center and noted. The reason is that if there are no objections at the collation center, once the collation is completed and it's transmitted to the national office, any other complaint you are raising goes to no issue.
Okay, let's get an opinion on this issue, because there seems to be a lot of...
Collation is a simple process and a very important one for that matter. One, there must be counting at the polling unit. That is where you have polling agents standing by. If in the process of the counting somebody mistake, then apparently the polling agent must be able to come and say, "Oga, we are sorry, there is an error there. It will be corrected there and then. The thing will be recounted." So the same, it's more of fact than law.
Yeah, and figures.
Are you doing it well? I've seen situations whereby collation returning officers from states brought presidential election from their state. The way they did the tabulation, it was clear, even for those of us that were watching it, it was clear that errors were committed. 21 plus 15 cannot give you 40, isn't it? And if you make that kind of a mistake, and somebody who is the representative of his political party gets up and say, "Madam, there is a mistake there." Yes. How can 21 plus 15 give you 40? Apparently, it's a matter of figure. I've seen situations, even while Jaga, the last, when Jaga was the president, was the INEC chairman, that they have to adjourn. They have to abate at that point in time. They said, "Mr. So-so place from Adamawa State, can you kindly go back, look into your figures?" Are you with me? Yes. So at that point, it's not a matter of shouting there. Yes. It's not a matter of fighting there. It's a matter of, look, you did. It's not a matter of looking, okay, this is the figure they brought from a particular place, and you now get to the collation center, you change it. How come?
Okay, so let us see. Let me just give you a perspective of what the question I'm asking.
Yeah.
For instance, you had 20 voters accredited in a polling unit. Right. Maybe there are 16 polling units in a local government, and the total vote from your party agents, that's not accredited voters from your party agent, which was signed at the various polling units, you had about 1,000.
Yes.
Then the party gets to the state collation officer. What was now recorded as the total vote from that polling unit has miraculously increased to 1 million.
Okay.
To 1 million.
Right.
So one of the party agents is trying to complain that this is not what transpired at the various polling units. So does he have a right, according to INEC guidelines? Because at that point, the complaint is asked to be attended by the state collation officer. And he is referring him, go to the beavers or to the back-end server that will be provided by INEC and check the accredited voters. That would ordinarily tell you that the number you are seeing does not represent the number of people. So does he have that right?
He has the right.
Yes, he has the right.
He has the, because that's one reason why you are doing collation. Agents have to be there. Yes. They have their results, and they must be able to come around and say, "Look, Oga, what you announce is different."
Because we are asking this.
So at that point in time, it has to be.
We are asking this question because the collation. These are learned gurus. Yeah. I'm sure that you have gone through the electoral act.
Yeah.
The collation officer said that he doesn't have that right. That he only has the right to tabulate results that have been provided before him.
Which result is he tabulating?
Which result is it tabulating?
Which result is it? No, ordinarily. Sorry, Mr. Obiora. If somebody, you see, this is a matter of fact. This is a matter that beyond that place, it will get to court, and you will have done a lot of injustice to the entire process. If you have the truth staring you at the face and you are trying to silence it, it doesn't work. You are recording 1,000 for somebody who scored 500. It doesn't work.
Because we saw it being done in Abia State, where the collation officer had to stand down the collation process, and they went to go and check the basket and cross-check.
That is the right thing.
That is the right thing. Let me say this. Most of the rigging of elections are usually between the collation center and the national collation, the one that is done at the federal level. Although there are figures that are transmitted to the collation centers that are fictitious most times, and that's where vigilance is very, very important at the collation center. All those party agents who are there, they are supposed to cross-check all the returns from their various ward and units to find out what is the figure and then what is being accepted by the collation officer, so that they ensure that it reflects the true voting. Because a lot of times you find that the figures are fictitious. And then once the man says, I don't have any power to accept anything or to make any correction.
In the present elections that held,
Yes.
in the election that I had yesterday, I am aware that as at about 12 o'clock this afternoon, about over 81% in two beyond Imo now. Imo was concluded long before that.
Yes.
Had been transmitted through whichever has been transmitted through the IRF of a thing. People were able to see it.
Yes.
So the danger of an electoral collation officer coming around to say this is my figure. If he does not tally with the figure on IRF, then a fraud has already been perpetrated.
But that was what happened in Imo State. Somebody raised an issue that the figures were not adding up.
Yeah.
And instead of looking into those things to address it, to cross-check, he was beaten and thrown out.
Yes, because
that is
I said earlier on
that is wrong.
The proper thing is to watch the process, check, and know whether
back end.
That's
is correct.
And you know.
Unfortunately, let me say this: the governor, like I said it earlier on, that the overbearing influence of a governor over the process, both the collation, both the officers, the movement of logistics is too much.
Okay, I know, but Let us leave the issue of the individuals, because they will definitely have preference. If the institutions are strong, the institutions should be able to resist those who are having overbearing.
Who are those who beat up? Have you found out who are those who beat up that man, that officer?
Oh, no, listen.
And the security the security system around the polling collation center.
No, listen.
Okay, we are almost out of time. If we go on to this program, of course, we might spend almost up to 3 hours discussing this issue. We still have next week to continue on this part. But let us get your last word on what INEC can do to improve the process and increase the confidence of Nigeria.
Yes, I think INEC have not done enough, like I said earlier on, in sensitizing the people, in mobilizing the people, and also in the area of trust, building trust and confidence. What would have expected a review of the previous election and how things can be better, even taking input from the people.
All right.
I think basically we should commend INEC. We should commend them for what they have done so far. Before the politicians, just like we have just recounted now, an INEC officer was beaten up. Here we are criticizing them. There we are saying they have not done enough. Then apparently they have become the object of bully by almost everyone. They are doing their very best. They left their homes to take this risk, and we are saying they have done pretty well.
Right, so okay, last word on this.
As far as I'm concerned, there's need for government to do everything to make INEC independent. INEC is not truly independent, and they are failing people like me by conducting elections that people are no longer interested in. If you are conducting an election out of 2 million people, just about 600 are participating, it means it's a dismal failure. No matter what the leadership may have said, because
you don't compel me to vote. You can't force me to vote.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you very much, Barrister.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Deji Olale. Thank you, viewers at home. It has been an interesting one, but for want of time, we cannot continue this process. We'll meet you next week when we return with another edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law. Stay tuned.